Welcome to the Disrupting Obesity podcast. I'm Charlotte Skanes, and I'll be sharing ways to regain control over your body and lose an extreme amount of weight naturally. Being fat is about so much more than just the food. It's about your relationship with food. That means that dealing with your weight is about more than just the food, too. You have to change that relationship. You have to start disrupting obesity. If you're dealing with significant weight loss, odds are pretty good you deal with some form of sabotage over the holidays. I did a 3-part series on sabotage and enabling, but just like everything else when it comes to weight loss, the last quarter has its own very special flavor that it's bringing to the party. Everywhere you turn during the holidays, there's a chance for sabotage. There are Gladyses around every corner, between the ones, waving around platters of all your favorite holiday treats and the ones who are berating you for eating them. It's a lot to deal with. Sabotage comes in a lot of different forms, and it doesn't have to be big, overt things like buying your favorite desserts and leaving all the leftovers at your place, or, having somebody all up in your face and confronting you about your weight or your choices. Those are sabotage, yes, but it can be a lot more subtle than that. When I'm teaching this stuff in my program, I say that saboteurs are the people who do things to derail you, and enablers are the people who help you derail yourself. But I also spend 9 weeks dealing with who. That's the pillar where I show you how the people, the who's in your life, are impacting your relationship with food. And just like today, where I have to talk about the way other people sabotage you during the holidays and how you sabotage yourself, when we talk about the way other people are impacting and influencing your choices in your relationship with food, we also have to talk about the ways that you're doing it too. So it's a pretty intense 9 weeks. You can probably see why I'm struggling to try and boil it down to a single episode. The last time I tried to talk about sabotage, it took 3 full episodes. So there's that. I wish sabotage wasn't a topic I need to cover. I wish everybody would just leave everybody else alone and let them do their thing, but that's definitely not the way it goes. Sometimes it feels like nobody wants to mind their business when it comes to weight, but there are levels, right? There are the people who say stuff that throws you off your game. They derail you emotionally. People who do things that throw you off your game. And some of it's really easy to dismiss and just walk off, and some of it can leave you rattled for days or longer. There's something about these last 3 months of the year that seems to make people think they've got a license to run their mouths. And you end up with these nightmare encounters where they just unload their feelings about your body and your weight, right? People comment on your food choices and your life choices like they're doing you a favor, and it's nuts. How you handle it is going to vary widely, just depending on who it's coming from, what your relationship with that person looks like now, and what you want it to look like later on. There are complicating factors like other people in your life's relationship with that person. I've got people in my life I would love to unload on, but I can't because it won't just affect me. It will impact the other people who are linked to them, the people that we have in common. Our lives don't happen in these isolated little bubbles, and I get so frustrated with blanket advice. What works with one person in one situation isn't always the best thing for somebody else or a different situation. Gently telling cousin Cindy to mind her business, probably not going to be a big deal. Telling your boss's husband off, it might be. Here's something to keep in mind. Usually, the stuff people have to say about you isn't actually about you. I know that's not much consolation at all when you're dealing with it, but it might be enough to help you hold your own tongue when that's the way that you want to handle the situation. Because you might decide that when somebody is sabotaging you, whether it's very tangibly by their words or actions, or whether they're just triggering you emotionally, you might decide that you're going to ignore it. Take the high road, hold your tongue, however you want to frame it. You might decide that's the way to go. And sometimes that's the right call. Sometimes it isn't, but some of the time it is. Knowing that the garbage coming out of somebody else's mouth or, driving their choice to try and sabotage your efforts says way more about how they feel about themselves than it says anything about you at all. right? You have to know that. I don't know what their trauma is that led them to this moment, and I really don't care. My only interest here is in trying to find ways to help you cope with it that aren't some pie in the sky, perfect world scenario. People can be dicks. People say nasty things. That's never all right. But part of the problem is that sometimes what they're saying is striking a nerve because it's also hitting a chord. What they're saying is true. And it's not fun having the truth pointed out to you. Sometimes it hurts. It can be really hard to understand why someone would want to be hurtful. Now, whether it's a coworker with a vicious Secret Santa gift or somebody in your own living room, it sucks. People use words as weapons to sabotage what you're trying to do. They've all probably got their reasons, but I really don't give a shit. You're probably noticing that I'm not giving a ton of examples here because sabotage looks different for everyone. I mean, there's this super obvious shit like your stepsister promising to bring that layered salad you love and you're banking on it to make your calories work, but you had to bring her favorite scalloped potatoes, so you did. And then she decides that she's going to forget all about it and you've got next to nothing to choose from, right? Husbands can really get in the way this time of year too. Aren't food gifts wonderful? Especially if your weight loss is already an issue within the dynamic, right? I don't wade into these waters often, but we all know somebody who's battling their weight who also has a partner that's on the wrong side of the war. And yeah, I know it might be insecurity or control issues. They don't want to be the fat one. They don't want you to not be the fat one. There's all kinds of stuff that could be going on here. Here's what I know. If your partner isn't on board with what you're trying to do, it sucks and it's hard. It's hard when anybody is running headlong into what you're trying to do. But the closer that person is to you, the harder it is overall. Which brings us back to those variables that determine how you handle this stuff. I would love to be one of those coaches who's just like, here's how you handle it when Uncle Milty starts in on whether your ass is bigger or smaller this year. It doesn't matter that it will reflect poorly on your mother or that your cousin Sherry has already apologized for her dad repeatedly. And Gladys, if you're out there with your keyboard all ready to fire one off about how there's never any tolerance for people who make you feel bad about yourself, and you should just give that old man a piece of your mind. I've just given you a scenario where, yeah, you might have to suck it up and deal. And again, it's relative. Dynamics are individual. Maybe Uncle Milt is pretty reasonable and he'd be responsive to you asking him to take it down a notch. Maybe that would cause an intergenerational family-wide incident. I don't know your Uncle Milt. Neither do the coaches out there giving this one-size-fits-all advice. Here's what I would do instead of practicing your speech for when you lay into the old guy. 3A way it. If you're new here, the 3A way is my answer to a lot of things. Most things, really. It's a system that I use to work your way through things. That's it. Awareness, acknowledgement, accountability. It's how you keep your head above water. When it comes to seasonal sabotage, it's a little easier to see it coming. Uncle Milt pulls his shtick every year. You're aware of that. You know it's coming. Let's not pretend it doesn't happen. Acknowledge it instead. Then you can work out what you want to do. And maybe that's the conversation you're going to have with Uncle Milt or Cousin Sherry about her dad or Debbie at work and possibly Abby from HR, depending on how ruthless Debbie's Secret Santa gift is this year. Maybe accountability is leaving room for yourself emotionally, giving yourself permission to recognize that this stuff sucks. It's complicated. Give yourself permission to handle this however you need to so that you don't end up eating your way through the emotions instead. It's okay to be pissed off or hurt or bored or just over the whole damn thing. It's okay to feel backed into a corner or wishful that you'd handled things better or differently or that you stood up for yourself more or that you could just let things go. It's all okay. You don't have to eat your way through it. You knew this was coming. So now the question becomes, if you knew it was going to be hard and you knew the sabotage was coming, are you eating now because they sabotaged you, or are you eating because you're sabotaging yourself? Because we know that Uncle Milt does this little song and dance every time. You knew. So if you're sitting there with what's left of the pie that your mother insisted you bring home, what's really going on. Is it actually the sabotage, or is the sabotage that you knew was coming just an excuse to eat? Because we sabotage ourselves through the holidays too. And not just with the stuff like this, where you know it's coming, but you use it as an excuse to eat anyway. We set ourselves up for failure in a million different ways. We buy food we know we can't stop ourselves from eating in massive quantities. We forget our lower calorie option at home. We sit with Debbie from work at the Christmas party, even after the Secret Santa debacle. We do all kinds of stuff that if you thought about it for even a few seconds, you might realize that you're totally setting yourself off. I can run scenarios for this all day. That thing that happened with the eggnog when you were 12, the cousin who refused to sit with you because you were fat when you were 8, the shit you overheard in the bathroom stalls at work, that time your husband only gave you gift cards to your favorite restaurants for Christmas. We could do this all day. We could do this from here until Christmas. I could make up some sort of holiday Mad Libs, right? Where we just keep inserting different people and different flavors of sabotage and different scenarios. But I might not hit on your particular situation. You might be dealing with passive aggression, toxic negativity, toxic positivity, and I don't want to hear it, Gladys. Toxic positivity when it comes to weight loss is a very real thing. And I'm not even going to answer your emails on this one anymore. It's over. It's over. Oh my God, I just know that this is your year. You're going to kill it. I'll bet if you started like right at New Year's, you could have like 40 pounds off by your birthday. Toxic positivity. I can do this all day, Glads. Put the keyboard down. There is a difference between cheering somebody on and overwhelming them with noxious enthusiasm. Just because you haven't experienced something doesn't make it any less real for those of us who do. Here's the thing. I would love to lay down a roadmap for you on how to handle your holiday weight loss sabotage. I'd love to. I could. But at the same time, I can't. It wouldn't be helpful. You need to map this out. Who's going to come for you this year? What are you going to do about it? Sometimes having a strategy is the strategy. You feel more confident because you know you've given it some thought. You have a plan. Even if the plan is to ignore Uncle Milt and commiserate with Sherry about it. Maybe you've got a Secret Santa gift of your own for Debbie this year. And I am definitely not suggesting doing like something nasty either or mean. I think it would be way more vicious to give her a mirror. You're going to think it's hilarious. She's never going to get it, which makes it even more funny. And who knows, maybe the universe will hear you and she'll actually take a look in it one day. But if you've given things some thought in advance, if you're aware of what you're up against when it comes to the holidays and you've acknowledged it instead of burying your head in the sand about it, you're way more likely to hold yourself accountable to your overall weight loss goals as this month closes out. The worst way you can sabotage yourself over the holidays is by beating yourself up, constantly rehashing things, playing the woulda, coulda, shoulda game. It's a waste of time. And it only makes things worse. You're doing the best you can, so stop beating yourself up. Next week, I'm back with another special holiday episode. I'm doing an Ask Whatever with nothing but questions about getting through these next couple of weeks. And I'm back the week after that too to help bring in your new year on the right foot. I know you guys know how I feel about the whole new year, new you thing. And I know that at this stage, it's not the most helpful bell that I could be ringing. So I'm going to try and do a better job of meeting you guys where you are. So on the 30th of December, our episode is what I would do if I was starting again tomorrow. I know there's a whack of you waiting for New Year's Day. So I'm going to tell you how I would do it. I haven't even started writing that episode yet, but I do think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to break things down as quickly and as thoroughly as I can. It is a little strange that I haven't started writing it yet at this point, but things have been busy. I'm behind on just about everything this year, but if you caught last week's episode, you'll know why. I've opened up my membership, and that's what's been keeping me insanely busy between the live calls and the accountability and the discussion spaces. Now that my program is online and I'm not doing one-on-one coaching privately anymore, it's been really amazing doing the live calls and just connecting in the group. I love my podcast. Do not get me wrong. I love this platform. I love this podcast. But it's very much a one-way conversation, right? And I'm a people person. So we have members in the group from all over the world coming together and encouraging each other while they're getting straightforward answers to their questions about weight loss. And this is something that I've been dreaming about for years. So you can check out the link in the notes or reach out to me if you'd like some more information. I would love for you to join me. It is a ton of fun, but we're still getting a lot done. Keep trying, keep tracking, don't be intimidated, and don't give up. You've totally got this. Thank you for listening to Disrupting Obesity with Charlotte Skanes. If you know it's time to take back control, lose the weight, and keep it off, reach out to me privately with a direct message on Instagram that says ready, so you can start disrupting obesity.